Discover the sinister secrets of the cursed, 12 spine-chilling tales to haunt your nights. The sun dipped below the horizon, shrouding Maplewood in an eerie twilight. Sarah clutched her children tightly, heart racing as the streets grew thick with shadows. Whispers of dread traveled through their suburban sanctuary. Pets vanished without a trace, a nearby home once full of laughter now silent. The last remnants of safety slipped through her fingers, leaving only the uncomfortable chill of something lurking in the dark. As the night stretched longer, unsettling noises invaded the silence. Creaks and groans, like 1,000 whispers. Emma and Jake, oblivious in their slumber, formed a fragile barrier against her growing fears, yet the unknown rattled her spirit. What was out there? Was something watching? Her friends, once reliable allies, now shared only guarded glances as they huddled in closed-door conversations. Sarah's instincts bristled. She felt like a stranger in a neighborhood she'd called home for years. She heard them share the tales of the Maplewood myth, a man who haunted the community, a sinister figure blending in among them. Worry transformed into dread as she followed a thread in the secret moms group online. Each chilling story dripped with terror, confirming her suspicions something was off. The account of the figure became a haunting refrain, pulling at the edges of her sanity. It felt like a shadow creeping close, whispering threats that only she could hear. Before we continue, I need to tell you something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to their system and many people are missing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and select all notifications so you don't miss future videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. That night, an unsettling creak jolted her awake. Heart pounding, she edged toward the source, the back door left wide open, swaying in the wind. Panic flooded her veins, a desperate need to protect her children. The shadows danced in the yard, and her mind raced. Could it be him? The time had come. Her breath caught as she peered through the darkness, spotting the silhouette behind the playset. A familiar face, a neighbor, twisted with malice, eyes blackened with some unnameable urge. We're all part of it, Sarah, he hissed, voice low and guttural. You can't escape the town's legacy. Adrenaline surged, propelling her forward. What do you know about the pets? About him? The confrontation steeled her resolve, but his laughter echoed as he stepped closer, shadows swallowing him whole. That electrifying moment, Sarah recognized the fracture in her community could unearth secrets worse than the tales she had read. Would unmasking the truth protect her children, or doom them to an even darker fate? The lines of friendship blurred, and her world spun towards a chilling reality. Could the real monster be anyone she trusted? The night deepened, the air thick with unspoken fears, leaving her trembling on the edge of revelation, dangerously close to discovering just how vile the depths would go. The laughter faded into the thick darkness, replaced by an icy silence. Sarah's mind raced as the neighbor's words twisted in her head. What did he mean by legacy? Panic clawed at her throat. She needed answers, but the shadows felt alive, pressing against her, suffocating the small pockets of courage she clung to. Don't look away, she whispered to herself, focusing on the looming figure. He shifted slightly, and she could make out the outline of a long, dark coat that seemed to swallow the dim moonlight. The air around them thickened, and suddenly, a sharp bark pierced the quiet. A neighbor's extra-large dog bounded into view, drawn by the tension. The creature barked fiercely, its growls resonating like the thunder of a warning. Sarah felt a momentary surge of hope. Maybe the presence of the dog would force the man to retreat. But the man only smiled, a slow, menacing grin that made the hair on her arms stand up. The dog won't save you, he sneered. Nothing can save you from the truth you refuse to see. With a rush of adrenaline, Sarah sprang into action. She couldn't stay paralyzed by fear. Get inside, she shouted to the dog's owner, who stood gaping in shock. The man's confidence flickered, and Sarah took the chance to back away towards her house, pulling the door closed behind her. Jake and Emma stirred at the noise, their innocent faces peering at her in confusion. What's wrong, Mommy? Emma's voice was laced with sleep, but it cut through the panic like a knife. Nothing, stay in your rooms. Sarah hissed, shutting the door more firmly, locking them out. Her heart raced. Was it the man who had caused all those pets to vanish? What more could he do? Shaking, she pressed her back against the door and slid to the floor, trying to calm her frantic breathing. Gulls screeched outside, an unsettling echo in the night. Sarah's eyes flitted around the dark room, the oddly shaped shadows in the corner, the flickering light from the street lamp filtering through the curtains. She could hear her children whispering to each other, their small voices a fragile balm against her rising dread. "Mommy's scared," Jake murmured after a moment, giving voice to the unmistakable tension thickening the air. Their concern shattered her resolve. She had to protect them. But how? A sudden crash echoed from the back of the house, every instinct screaming at her to flee. Was he inside? A primal fear welled up, forcing her to her feet. She threw a glance at the living room window. Only darkness stared back, but she sensed eyes watching her. "Stay here," she ordered the kids, pressing the palms of her hands against their warm cheeks, hoping to instill some strength into her voice. She grabbed her phone and crept toward the source of the noise, palms clammy and trembling, heart racing like a trapped bird. As she stepped into the hallway, her breath hitched. Ahead of her, the back door lay ajar, open wide, like an invitation. With every step forward, dread flooded her veins anew, wrapping around her like ghostly hands, pulling her deeper into an abyss of uncertainty. Then, from the shadows slipped a figure, his features obscured, but the sharp glint of eyes caught her completely off guard, eyes that glowed. "You can't run from the truth, Sarah," he rasped, voice echoing like thunder in a calm sky. And at that moment, the clinking of metal echoed behind her, a familiar sound too close for comfort. Panic surged anew as she turned to find the source, fear clenching her heart like a vice. What awaited her when she spun back? More than just a monstrous face. More than a neighbor twisted by madness. The truth loomed larger than her fear, and in that moment, she knew one certainty: everything she loved was now tangled up in this sinister web. What was the truth? And would she discover it before it consumed her whole? As Sarah turned back, the figure had vanished into the shadows, but the lingering chill he left behind clung to her skin like an unwanted reminder. Staring into the darkness, her heart pounded, the clock ticked ominously, each second dragging her deeper into fear. "Mommy?" Jake's voice was barely a whisper, trembling with confusion and dread. She spun around to find them standing, wide-eyed and vulnerable, just outside the bedroom door where she had left them, the faint light from the hallway casting an ethereal glow on their small frames. "Back to your rooms. Now," she commanded, her voice a raw blend of desperation and fury. But instead of retreating, they hesitated, uncertainty binding them in place. "Mom," we heard a loud bang. "What's happening?" Emma clutched her brother's arm, instinctively drawing him closer. Time warped, stretching into a surreal eternity. I don't know," Sarah admitted, fear crackling in her throat. The man's words echoed in her mind, "Nothing can save you." The whole house felt alive, trembling under the weight of unseen eyes. A crash erupted from the kitchen, louder this time, like a gunshot cutting through the suffocating silence. Instinctively, she lunged toward her children, gathering them into her arms. "Get in the closet," she urged, pointing to the small space at the far end of the hallway. They hesitated only for a moment before scrambling down the narrow corridor, trusting her judgment as she guided them. Sarah's knees were weak, but adrenaline propelled her forward as she rushed to the back of the house, the clattering metal a sinister serenade that ignited her deepest fears. She flicked the hallway light switch, flooding the area in light. But the kitchen lay cloaked in an unsettling darkness, shadows refusing to yield. She crept to the door, holding her breath. A frost-bitten chill seeped through the cracked entrance. "Please don't let it be him." The thought stabbed at her chest. Steeling herself, she flung the door wide open, the hinges creaking ominously. The sight before her was surreal. Chairs lay toppled, the kitchen table was knocked over, and the remnants of dinner were strewn like confetti. A strong metallic scent thickened the air, making her stomach churn. She scanned the room, half expecting the man to leap from the shadows, but nothing stirred. Feeling the walls closing in, Sarah's resolve began to waver. A cracked mirror caught her eye and she caught a glimpse of herself, eyes wide and hair disheveled, a specter of fear. Suddenly, a whisper brushed past her ear, chilling and intimate. "Sarah, find out what was taken." The weight of the words crashed upon her like an avalanche, and panic clawed at her insides. Not just anything had been taken, something precious. But what? As she took a step back, a muffled sound pierced the still air, a soft whimper followed by a strange, metallic thud from the living room. Each sound wove into a tapestry of dread. Sweat dripped from her brow as she felt a prickling sensation at the back of her neck. Someone or something was watching her. She turned slowly, the reality of her situation twisting like a knife. She was not alone. Behind her loomed the dark figure, now more defined, a shadow clothed in despair. "You should have listened, Sarah. The legacy is deeper than you imagine." Sarah's breath quickened. The children. She had left them exposed. With newfound urgency, she dashed back down the hallway towards the closet, but something heavy slammed against the door, forcing her to stumble back. "Mommy!" Jake screamed, the terror in his voice igniting her resolve. She grappled with the door handle, the world spinning as a fresh wave of panic broke over her. "Stay together!" She shouted back, praying somehow they were still hidden. The whispers grew louder, drowning her thoughts. They echoed around her, a cacophony threatening to engulf her. Just as the door buckled under a force she couldn't comprehend, a blinding light erupted from the kitchen, illuminating the darkness with a shocking brilliance. In the chaotic mix of fear and desperation, a single thought jutted. Through her panic, what had she truly awakened? The grip of dread tightened as the echoes faded into a deeper silence, left questioning if she had done enough to save them. But then, amid the darkness, came laughter. Sinister and familiar. And in that moment, Sarah's heart sank, realizing this was just the beginning. She stumbled backward, the laughter curling around her like a serpent. It was soft at first, an insidious sound that twisted joy into something grotesque. Her mind raced, trying to grasp the reality of the situation, every instinct urging her to run, to hide, to be anywhere but here. "Mommy!" Jake's voice cut through the chaos, pulling her from the depths of terror. She swung her head toward the closet as unease rapid-fired through her veins. Were they safe? Were they still there? The light from the kitchen flickered and died, plunging her back into darkness, the laughter now echoing through the walls like a malevolent chant. It seemed to be everywhere, teasing, coaxing, inviting her to join the sinister dance unfolding beyond the veil. Ignoring the dread pooling in her stomach, Sarah forced her feet forward. She could forget herself for just a moment. She could believe that if she reached that closet, they'd be secure. Closer now, she could sense the quivering stillness coming from within, their tiny hearts racing in sync with hers, her palms pressed against the door, her fingers trembling. "Jake, Emma. Are you okay?" she whispered urgently. The fear in her throat constricted, but they were alive. She could hear their quick breaths, their little forms curling together like lifelines. "Mom, we're scared." Emma's voice came, fragile but steady. "Hold tight. I'm right here," Sarah replied, her voice low and fierce, steadying herself as dread melded with determination. She reached for the knob, ready to pull the door open, but her heart dropped when she heard it again, the thud. It was louder, more persistent now, like a heavy fist pounding against the barrier between them. Fear gripped her anew. No, panic charged her body as she forced the door open. What greeted her was chaos. The living room was an unnatural tableau, dark shapes shifting in the corners like hidden nightmares. Objects lay strewn about the couch, the remnants of their life, all seemed transformed into a grotesque display of loss. The atmosphere thick with an unspeakable weight, as if the very air mourned what had come to pass. "Sarah," the voice was low, smooth as silk, slicing through her fog of terror. It was the dark figure, standing in the center of the living room, illuminated just enough by the dying glow of her memory. You seek what was taken. But you have yet to understand its true cost. She shivered, more from his words than his presence, feeling the terror wound tighter around her. What do you want? What did you take from me? She demanded, trying to keep her voice strong, to mask the trembling inside. The figure smiled, grotesque and wide, revealing teeth that glinted in the fading light. Everything comes with a price. Are you prepared to pay it? To uncover the truth? A chill crept down her spine as she felt a whispered urge to step forward, as if a dark curiosity pulled at the edges of her mind. What truth? The shadows seemed to shift with life, whirling around her as though a storm was brewing. She tightened her grip on the doorframe, eyes darting from the figure to the shadows, then back again. What do you want from my kids? His laughter rang out again, a haunting melody before he answered, only what you owe. The consequences of your legacy, Sarah. They rippled just beneath the surface. Suddenly, a crash erupted from the kitchen once more, this time louder, more violent, like the shattering of glass mingled with a resonance of despair. The figure turned, momentarily distracted, and in that brief moment, her instinct screamed. Run! She shouted, lunging toward the closet, throwing herself against the door. As she yanked it open, she was met not with the safety of her children but with an empty void. A breath of icy air swept past her, and she felt the horrid realization settle over her like a shroud. Where are they? She gasped, heart racing, arms flying into darkness as she stumbled inside. And then, she heard the whispers again, louder this time, a chorus of voices, sweet and sickeningly familiar. Help us, Mommy! But the darkness took over, washing her in despair as she clung to the echoes. Panic clawed at her throat. Who were the voices? Why couldn't she see? The kitchen door slammed, and the dark figure turned back to her, eyes gleaming with malice. You've awakened what lies beneath. It isn't just the children at risk but you. Sarah's breath quickened. She felt the world narrowing, voices merging into a single shriek that echoed around her. In that moment, she knew, time was running out. What awaited her in the depths of the dark? The weight of the curse bore down like a flood racing to break over her. The laughter grew louder, wrapping around her, binding her in its sinister embrace. Closing her eyes, Sarah took a shuddering breath. The game had only just begun. The laughter pulsed through her, a living thing gnawing at the edges of her sanity. Sarah's heart thundered in her chest as she peered into the bleakness that swallowed the closet. The air thickened, pregnant with dread. There was no sign of Jake or Emma, just that terrible hush, twisted by the whispers. Mommy helped. The voices curled around her like smoke, seductive and vile. She felt their warmth, a chilling reminder of the innocence now lost, a fleeting promise that slipped through her fingers. Adrenaline surged. I'll find you! She cried, her voice echoing against the walls, but it felt empty, a mere breath lost in the void. Stumbling back into the living room, she cast furtive glances, searching for answers in the eyes of the dark figure. But instead, his face morphed into a grotesque mask of glee. They called for you, Sarah. But you've sealed their fate. What do you mean? She fought against the growing despair, refusing to succumb to his mocking. What did you do? Where are they? He took a step closer, and shadows clung to his body like some dark shroud. Your decisions, your choices, they led to this. The cost is unpayable. Fight it, and you will lose everything. Just let me see them. Bring them back. The desperation spilled from her lips, thick and raw. Not even your pleas can turn back time. His voice dipped lower, slithering into her mind. Your children are but pawns in a game you've already lost. Fury ignited inside her, white-hot and ready to erupt. I will not lose them. With eyes blazing, she lunged, but he merely stepped aside. From the brittle silence, a low hum began to rise, a discordant symphony of cries and laughter clashing in a swirling maelstrom. The ground beneath her trembled, vibrating with an unholy power. Shadows ebbed and flowed, twisting forms that seemed to stretch and claw toward her. She staggered back, her heart racing, pulse roaring in her ears. The laughter crescendoed, mingling with the whispers and colliding with her thoughts. "Mommy, where are you?" Their tiny voices echoed louder, a desperate plea ricocheted off the walls. "Jake! Emma!" Panic erupted in her chest, sending electricity coursing through her limbs. She turned again, scanning the room, eyes darting. "Where are you?" "I'm coming." The figure stood at the edge of her vision, face hidden but his shadow loomed, encompassing her. "Hold on to your hope, Sarah. It's the only thing that will keep you alive." His words twisted inside her, sparking doubt, and she gritted her teeth, fighting against the pull of despair. She had to engage him, to understand the depths of this darkness, lest it swallow her whole. "Tell me about this game," she demanded, the words almost a prayer, desperation threading her voice like a lifeline. He tilted his head, amusement flickering across his features. "Ah, the heart of it all, the truth will unravel you but might also save them." The shadows thickened, as if breathing in sync with his every word. "Are you ready for a choice?" Sarah caught her breath, weighed in heavy dread as the voice of her children surged, drowning out her thoughts. The floor beneath her creaked ominously as a sharp chill swept in through the cracks of her resolve. "Time to choose. You must seek what lies hidden. But remember, dear Sarah, every truth comes with a sacrifice. Only then will you reveal what really lives in the shadows." A sudden crack of lightning illuminated the darkened room, a blinding flash that sent her heart racing. And in that split second of brightness, she saw them, flickers of her children huddled in the corner, their tiny figures shrouded in the fog of despair. "Mommy! Help us!" With instinct surging, Sarah dashed forward, but the shadows whipped around her, barring her passage like a foreboding wall. "No! Let me through!" The figure laughed, deep and mocking. "The door remains locked. All you have to do is find the key, but be careful, the key may cost you more than you can bear." Clenching her fists, Sarah's resolve solidified. She wouldn't lose them again, the price of failure was more than she could accept. She would uncover the truth. Even if it meant facing horrors she couldn't fathom. As she stepped deeper into the darkness, the voices of her children beckoning her forward, an unsettling thought crossed her mind: what if the truth was more terrifying than she could ever comprehend? Her breath hitched as she prepared to illuminate the dread that awaited her. The echoes began to grow fainter. Time was slipping, and she had to act fast. As she ventured deeper, she didn't realize each step forward twisted the knife further into her heart. But would the truth reveal salvation or doom? The path ahead was cold, and the walls began to close in. In the heavy silence, a whisper slithered through the shadows. "Your game starts now," and she knew she was far from safe. The air turned icy, the shadows thickening like a suffocating fog. Anxiety rippled through Sarah's veins as she pushed deeper into the darkness, her breath coming in ragged gasps. The dim glow of the remnants of lightning faded, leaving her with only the sharp sounds of her heartbeat thundering in her ears. Every surface felt wrong, twisting reality into something grotesque and warped. Her mind clawed at memories, treasured images of Jake and Emma filled with laughter. But now, those memories felt tainted, wrapped in the cruel joke of this darkened space. "Mommy!" Their cries echoed fragile yet urgent, like the chirp of a trapped bird. "Help us! I'm coming!" She shouted, voice faltering but resolve tightening her fists. She needed to confront whatever lurked in the shadows. She had no choice but to fight. A sharp pain spiked through her foot, and she sucked in air as she stumbled, landing hard on the floor. Scrambling back to her feet, she quickly brushed her hands over a jagged floorboard that had cut into her skin. Flickers of light danced in her peripheral view, drawing her attention toward a darkened corridor barely visible in the gloom. Rubbing her sore foot, she took a step toward the opening when the figure appeared again, a mere silhouette deepening the shadows around him. The sickening laugh filled the air once more. "Ah, dear Sarah. It's time to reveal your greatest fear. What do you want from me?" She barked, defiance burning in her throat. Only what you owe. The truth is burdensome, and the game demands a price. He stepped forward, and for a fleeting moment, his face was illuminated by an unseen light, deformed features twisted in a sickening mockery of a smile. Venturing deeper down the corridor, she felt each urge in her body warning her to stop. Chills prickled her skin, her instincts screaming to turn back. Yet the voices of her children urged her on like a siren call that skated over her heart with both hope and dread. Suddenly, the laughter morphed into screams, a cacophony shrilling through the walls. "Help us! Mommy, please!" The sounds mingled with her own fear, spinning her thoughts chaotically. Frantic, Sarah forced herself to push through the nightmare. "I will save you." But as she moved, her surroundings shifted, warping into surreal landscapes that twisted beneath her feet. She pressed on, determined, until she stumbled into a room brimming with artifacts, photos, toys, and trinkets lay strewn across the floor. Each item glinted with an eerie, pulsating light, whispering forgotten memories into the air. In the center, a large, ancient mirror stood, its surface rippling as if it were alive. Sarah approached it, drawn to the reflection that twisted inside. It showed a younger version of herself, smiling carefree and unaware of the darkness that loomed near. The world shimmered, shifting to a scene of a happy family reunion. But the reflection warped, twisting into grotesque faces of fear. A voice sang from the mirror, laced with malice. "What if you never existed? Would they still call to you? Stop." She clutched her head, trembling as despair threatened to root her to the ground. She would not let this thing manipulate her. "I'm not afraid of you." With a surge of adrenaline, she lunged forward, reaching for the mirror's frame, grasping at the shimmering surface, desperate to shatter the illusion. As her hand touched the cold glass, pain sliced through her, as if the mirror was layered with barbed wire. Every sacrifice comes with consequences. The reflection cackled, and through the agony, Sarah felt a pull, drawing her in, threatening to swallow her whole. Shattering sound erupted, reverberating through her bones. But it was not the mirror that broke, it was her resolve teetering on the brink. Just then, a ripple of sensation engulfed the air, and the flickering laughter morphed into cries for help, her children's cries. "Mommy, please!" Her eyes widened, realizing she stood at the edge of a moment that could turn her fate. Could she unravel the truth before it consumed her? The air felt heavy with anticipation, each heartbeat pounding an urgent beat. "Let this end," she cried, "I will not let you take them." But the shadows loomed closer, and as they reached out with sickly fingers, the walls trembled in response. She clawed at her last thread of courage, focusing on the voices echoing in her mind, wrestling against the darkness. What did she need to sacrifice to reveal the truth? The mirror trembled, and for an instant, clarity pierced the chaos. "Choose!" hissed the shadows, their patience waning. Could she face what lay ahead? And in that critical moment, surrounded by silence, she sensed a choice. The game was drawing to its climax. Would she reveal the truth, or lose everything? The reflection flickered one last time, and then, everything went black. Light returned in a burst, blinding and chaotic, crashing over Sarah like icy water. She gasped, but the air felt thick, suffocating. The room had transformed. Instead of the barren corridor, she found herself standing in a lush, vibrant garden, but it was no innocent sanctuary. The flowers were blood red, petals wilted, as if they had been plucked too soon. Vines writhed and twisted around her legs, wrapping her tighter in an embrace that felt alive. "Mommy! Help us!" The distant cries sliced through the heavy air, wrenching her back to the horror she had just escaped. Fear clutched at her throat as she staggered forward, struggling against the creeping grasp of the vines. Panic rose within her like bile. They were close, she could feel it. "What game are you playing?" she shouted into the silence, her voice echoing unnaturally in the garden's stillness. "Where are my children?" A figure materialized amid the maze of twisted blooms. Though the visage was familiar, it was grotesquely altered, a reflection of her own figure, warped and haunted. Its eyes held depths of empty void, devoid of warmth, and its mouth twisted into a derisive smirk. "Welcome to your mind, Sarah," it whispered, voice low and taunting. "Where are the roots of your fears? Would you like to dig deeper? I'm not afraid of you." She screamed, but the tremor in her voice betrayed her. The figure stepped forward, blurring the lines between her and the creature, a dark mirroring of everything she had buried. "Ah, but beneath that strength, there lies darkness. Every secret you hold, every lie to shield those children, we will unearth them together." With those words, the garden writhed, and the flowers erupted with hollow laughter, the sound growing louder, more intrusive. She felt her resolve slipping, and the shadows merged once again, swirling around her feet like hungry animals. Each bloom opened wider, petals stretching to reveal Sinister, gaping maws ready to consume her. "No!" she shouted, stumbling back, her hands grasping for something, anything to ground herself. "I refuse to surrender." Fueled by determination, she pressed onward, creating space between her and the haunting figure. She could no longer feel her feet on the ground, they dissolved into a swirling mirage of color, lifting her into the air. In that moment of suspended dread, the cries of her children grew louder, more desperate. "Mommy! Please, Mommy!" They echoed through the depths of the garden, amplifying her determination, igniting a fire within her. "I will find you!" she screamed, setting her sights on what lay beyond the garden's edge. With a sudden shift, the scenery blurred, and she was thrown into an endless hall of mirrors, each reflecting twisted fragments of her past. Faces that mocked her, family members, friends, strangers, all wore expressions of hatred and betrayal. Her heart pounded harder, desperation clawing at her insides. She could not waver now, the shadow would not win. As she stood at the nexus of her fears, a flicker of resolve surged. Each distorted reflection whispered secrets, their piercing words mingling with the chorus of cries. "Face the truth, Sarah. What did you sacrifice?" Glaring into a mirror that pulsed with dark energy, she peered closely. A vision formed, a memory of a choice made long ago, one that twisted like a knife in her heart. She was horrified by the truth that unfolded. She had placed her ambitions above her children, but could facing this truth shatter the nightmare? The glass began to swirl, the reflection warping into a chaotic vortex. Black tendrils reached out, eager to ensnare her as they raced towards her throat. "Choose. Face it, or lose them forever." The creature cackled, its grotesque face looming closer. With her heart pounding, Sarah realized she stood on the precipice of decision. Either embrace the truth or condemn herself to this void forever. The walls began to close in, pressing down with impending doom. As the darkness gripped her chest, her voice rose raw and defiant. "No. I will not be a prisoner of my past. I will bring them back." But with those words, everything shattered, gravity twisted, and the ground fell away, leaving only endless darkness. What waited on the other side of choice? Would she be lost forever, or reborn anew? The darkness engulfed Sarah, wrapping around her like a shroud. For a moment, there was nothing, only the acute silence pulsing around her, heavy and oppressive. She felt weightless, suspended in an abyss of her own making. Then, the void trembled. Reality shifted. Suddenly, she crashed into a place of blinding light. It was harsh and stark, gleaming like surgical steel. The sensation was disorienting, a cruel contrast to the darkness she had just experienced. She found herself in a sterile room, the walls glistening white and cold, filled with faded echoes of laughter and joy. In the center stood a wooden table, polished but cracked, strewn with photographs. Familiar faces stared back at her, her children, her husband, snapshots filled with smiles that twisted her gut. They felt stolen, glossed over by an unseen hand. A frame containing their last family portrait caught her eye. In the photograph, the smiles were a mask, a thin veil hiding the turmoil lurking behind their eyes. "Mommy?" The voice was like a beacon in the chaos but tinged with fear. Chills raced through her. "Where are you?" she cried, feeling the walls close in once more. "Right here." The voice was surrounded by a clamor of giggles, yet an undercurrent of dread twisted the happiness. It was a sound she couldn't trust. She reached for the table, her fingers brushing against the photographs as if they were the last lifeline she had. Each image started to blur, shadows creeping into the edges, blurring her memories until they felt alien. A creeping sensation coiled around her heart. What more was hidden beneath the surface? Face it, Sarah. The figure appeared again, slithering into view, its eyes glowing with malicious intent. These are the moments you cling to, but every smile sings of betrayal. Do you want the truth? No. She recoiled, anger pulsing through her veins. I just want my children. Where are they? In response, the figure merely spread its arms wide, and the room warped. The sunlight faded into a morose twilight, deep shadows stretching across the floor, ready to devour her whole. The laughter morphed into cries. Her children were coming through, but their essence felt shattered, fractured pieces scattered among the darkness. Mommy! They wailed, their voices intertwining in a haunting symphony, resonating with her deepest fears. A window shattered, and she was pulled toward it, the glass fragmenting into 1,000 shining shards, gliding through the air like deadly shurikens. The figure grinned, its demeanor unsettling as it gestured towards her family in the distance, trapped in a storm of swirling black mist. They reached for her, desperate hands clawing at the veil between them. You can't save them without facing what you've done. Will you take the plunge? It hissed, a wicked gleam illuminating its features. Sarah felt her heart thunder in her chest. She was on the edge of a precipice, staring into an abyss that was cradling her darkest secrets. Could she confront her past, or was this her punishment for betraying the sanctity of motherhood? Again, the world around her began to twist, pulled as if by an unseen force. With a lurch in her stomach, she stumbled backward, the whispers rising in pitch. Each revelation dragged at her heels, leaving her teetering on the brink of despair, a hurricane of emotions raging within. Choose. It thundered, pulling her thoughts into chaos, shattering her final defenses. Face your sins, or let them consume you. But could she truly bear the weight of everything she had buried? The laughter and cries blended into a vortex, and she felt herself drawn in, spiraling deeper into her choices. Her skin prickled as the darkness beckoned, offering solace in surrender. Mommy! A final cry echoed through her mind, a tether to the light, pulling her back just as hope began to fade. Would she sink into the darkness or fight her way through to the fragile light of truth? The answer lay on the tip of her tongue, yet she dared not speak it. As the ground beneath her feet crumbled once more, she felt dizzyingly close to the truth. 1. Choice: would she embrace her past or be swallowed whole? What awaited at the heart of her despair? Would the truth set her free, or would it bind her eternally to the darkness she feared so deeply? The shattering echo of the glass lingered, fading into a breathless silence that enveloped Sarah like a thick fog. Fear ricocheted within her, pounding against her skull. In that insufferable quiet, the shadows around her twisted and wriggled, vibrant with life but cold with malice. Mommy! The cry was agonizing, a piercing dart through her heart. It pulled her toward the swirling mist, to the hands that grasped desperately from beyond. They were so close, yet the dark swirl between them grew sharper, sharper like sharks circling a wounded prey. Face yourself, the whisper slithered through the air, each word a slow poison. Or they will be lost forever. She stumbled, the urge to flee battling the need to confront the horror. The air thickened, clawing at her throat. Could she really face herself? The shadows flickered, seeming to merge and reshape into haunting memories of the past events she had concealed so cunningly. When the truth had cracked the facade of her perfect life, Sarah had run. Now, that bloodied truth lay exposed before her like freshly turned earth. No. I can't. She choked out, her breath hitching in her throat. I won't. But the figure loomed closer, its features sharper and more grotesque, the shadows casting an ever-growing pall over her determination. You are not strong enough to escape. Not this time. Fingers trembling, she reached toward her family, her breath quickening as she spotted their faces in the churning darkness. Their eyes, once filled with innocence, glimmered now with something that sent chills down her spine. Disappointment. Fear. Was it hatred? "Mommy, help us." Their voices cried once more, merging into a suffocating ball of sound that wrapped around her, squeezing tight as she battled to breathe amid the rising tide of dread. Just then, the ground beneath her erupted, like a violent tremor shaking the very core of her being. The sterile room flickered, pulsating like a heart on the brink. She could feel herself teetering, about to plunge into the unyielding black. "What are you?" she shouted, defiance trembling in her voice as she willed the darkness into submission. "I am your greatest fear," the figure replied, those glowing eyes narrowing with pleasure. "I am your guilt, your secrets, your sins. I have come to collect." The words hit her like a physical blow. It clawed at her memories, the shattered whispers of her past staining the moments she held closest. The smell of burnt toast from late-night dinners, the eruption of suppressed arguments, the echo of her own laughter drowning beneath waves of regret. "Do you remember the things you've buried?" It hissed, the smile never faltering. Its presence was suffocating, it wrapped around her like vines, harder with each passing second, with each breath. Images flashed before her, decisions made in haste, moments when she chose herself over her children, casting shadows long enough to hide the truth. "I won to let you take them. I will not let you win," she screamed, her voice rising above the storm of despair. "Then choose." It boomed, pitching her toward a swirling void filled with her own mistakes. "Face what you've done, and you may find your family." Otherwise the world twisted more violently, her feet losing grip on the ground, sending her plunging into a whirlpool of memories that clawed at her mind. Wailing echoed from all sides, the pain of 1,000 choices crashing over her like relentless waves. "Mommy, don't leave us." And just before she was swallowed whole, an image struck her, sharp and clear, a single moment of truth standing against the rest of the chaos. Would she have the courage to embrace that truth? Or would the darkness claim her forever? As the screams peaked, the very fabric of reality began to tear. What awaited her on the other side? Would Sarah find the light, or would she remain lost in a labyrinth of her own making? The final choice was coming. And time was running out. The darkness shattered like glass, leaving Sarah breathless and trembling, suspended between two worlds. She blinked and found herself standing in the middle of her living room, familiar, yet profoundly different. Light filtered in through the curtains, illuminating the scattered remnants of her once happy life. Toys lay abandoned, reminders of innocence now tainted with fear. An echo of laughter reverberated in her mind, but it felt more like a memory shrouded in sorrow. "Mommy?" A soft voice broke through the murky haze. It was followed by another, "Help us." Her heart lurched as the cries of Jake and Emma washed over her. They were close, very close. "Where are you?" she called, panic rising like bile in her throat. Each second felt like an eternity as she scanned the room, desperation clawing at her insides like a living thing, but then she saw them, shadows flickering against the hallway wall. "Mommy!" They rushed toward her, faces pale and wide-eyed, fear palpable in the air between them. An overwhelming rush of love collided with her crushed heart. "Are you okay? Are you hurt?" she asked, pulling them close as they clung to her legs. Their warmth felt like salvation under a blanket of despair. "No, Mommy," Jake whispered, his tiny hands trembling. "We heard it all, your scream." A lump formed in Sarah's throat. Her children had witnessed her darkest moments, felt her fears reverberate through the walls of their home. This was her consequence, the reality of her earlier choices unfurling like a dark flag. "I'm sorry," she breathed, holding them tighter. "I was so scared. I didn't want you to see me like this." "But we did see," Emma chimed in, her voice small but steady. "You have to fight it. You promised to protect us." In their innocence lay the key to her own redemption. Their fear reflected the truth she had hushed down in her heart, turning into a wave of guilt. You're right, she said, releasing them for a second to kneel before them. I need to face the fear, the darkness. If they want to collect something from me, then let it be my choices. I will embrace the truth. She felt the shadows still lingering, whispering sweet nothings about failure and rage, but fueled by her children's courage, she stood tall. Sarah extended her arms wide, envisioning the looming figure that had haunted her. I'm not afraid of you. I know who I am now, and I will not be shackled by my past. I will not be dragged into the darkness. The air trembled at her words, shadows recoiling, shriveling back like crumpled paper. From the distance, she felt the figure's presence wavering, a tremor running through the walls. No more playing games, she declared, steadying her breath. Let me see the truth, the real costs of my actions, the love and the pain it left behind. The shift was abrupt, the space around her warping into that treacherous hall of mirrors once more. This time, however, she advanced through the reflections without fear, grasping the hand of the child that represented every choice she had made. With each step, the whispers quieted, the noise of the past fading into a soft rustle of memories. She faced every distorted reflection that rose before her, missed moments, lost time, cries for help left unaddressed, but she stood resolute. Each choice was mine, she spoke aloud. I may stumble, but I own my past. Finally, she reached the mirror at the end of the corridor. Its surface shimmered, pulsating with the heartbeats of love and loss alike. With one brave breath, she touched it. Light exploded, filtering around them like rainbows. With that touch, everything transformed. The room was bright and warm, her children's laughter breaking free like a captured song. A new world opened up, filled with possibilities, a rebirth washed in forgiveness. Mommy! Jake and Emma shouted, bounding to her. Relief washed over her like an ocean tide, sweeping away despair, leaving only hope. United, they stood in their home again, but it felt different, renewed. The shadows had receded, and the whispers silenced. The legacy of fear was behind them, like a distant nightmare fading into the dawn of a new day. I love you both, Sarah whispered, clasping their hands tightly, ready to face whatever came next. And together, we will write a new story. As day broke softly through the windows, Sarah felt the last remnants of darkness slip away. The silence was different now, filled with the soft echoes of love, laughter, and the promise that they would grow together, unafraid of the shadows. This was not just a farewell to the past but a heartfelt embrace of the future, a family forged through struggle, standing tall against the face of fear. And before the sun fully rose, she realized she had defeated the curse together with her children. She smiled, warmth flooding her heart and a hope she thought lost forever blooming anew. That if you enjoyed this story, this is the moment to show your support. You need to subscribe immediately to the channel so you don't miss the next exclusive stories that will keep you on the edge of your seat. Smash that like button now to feed the algorithm and ensure these haunting tales reach every corner. Flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about the ending. Your thoughts matter to us. And please, instantly share this video with at least 5 friends who need to experience this conclusion. Don't wait even one more second to share the thrill. True fans know the importance of acting now.